Disclaimer: the views expressed on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek are solely the opinions of the host and the guest. The content of the conversation is not reflective of the institutions or establishments mentioned therein. Take all these opinions with a pinch of salt and a dash of lime if needed. Hey Ashwin, how's it going, bro?
Hey Prateek, it's going really good. It's just a bright day, and I'm very happy for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's always nice to wake up to a bright day. Totally is. Before we get started, if you could let everybody know who you are, what you do, any future aspirations, likes and dislikes in everyday life, anything and everything you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, so hi there. I'm Ashwin. I'm a legendary hero sailing a powerful ship on an epic journey. And so basically, I tell stories. And so if you happen to see me either on your Instagram feed or Facebook, so there you'll meet me as a performer. And if you happen to just drive by Oklahoma someday and then you see there's a bridge which is kind of in a really bad shape, you just give me a call and then you'll see me as an engineer. So basically that's me. And of course, like when you see me in a Spider-Man costume anywhere in Oklahoma, that's also definitely me, because I would definitely do a lot of cosplay. And my likes are pretty basic: family, friends, Dragon Ball Z, that's what I'm wearing right now, uh, and dosa and films. And my dislikes are situations where people either force me to sing or cook, because both of those stars are kind of really lethal. Like when people try or listen to me singing or cooking, that and I hate ghosting or be ghosted, but I have been on the other spot a lot of times, so that's one other thing I don't like. And yeah, like I don't like my head being touched anytime, so that's one of the things. And my future aspirations are very straightforward. Have enough money to satisfy a little over my basic needs and make meaningful and better connections with people, uh, and be a person, and more than being a person of success, be a person of value. Like people see that there is value in this person, that's exactly how you get successful. And the finally, just be aware of the three C's in life, like change, chances, and choices. So that's pretty much how I roll.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's a great place to sort of start off. You said that you don't like ghosting people or being ghosted. I
Yeah.
remember you mentioning in our email conversation that you're quite experimental with your dating on
Yes.
apps and so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
Mhm.
If you want to elaborate on that, what do you mean by your experimental um, in your
Yeah,
approach?
definitely. So the thing is, I'm initially from Visakhapatnam in India, and my the way I grew up was pretty much a lot secured. Like I didn't have much social skills, as to how, like, to talk to people or make connections. So I didn't know how to talk to women in the first place. Like the maximum I could do in college was just ask them the time, and then I used to think that, oh yeah, this is what I did, and I just feel, yes, I did something really great. And the whole concept, I didn't, even though the internet was quite prevalent that time, I didn't have a slightest of the thought that, oh, there are phases where you connect with a person. Like you see, you talk, and there's a friendship phase, and there's a dating phase, and then the relationship phase, and then, so my brain was completely shaped by the movies I used to watch. Like in most movies I just see, oh yeah, this guy just looks at the girl, she looks at him back, and then they get married. So I used to think, okay, it's just like you go tell her I love you and get married. So and then cut to the part where I'm in the US, and I've completed my masters from OU, and everything was fine. And then I met one of the girls I really know, and I didn't know how to react. Like, she was really nice to me, and I've known her for 6 months. So I was like, okay, I know the tried and tested formula which Shah Rukh Khan has tried, Amir Khan has tried, Akshay Kumar has tried, so let me try it. I just went and just told, hey, I love you, and let's get married, and then we can have kids. I said, I was like, even today when I just look at myself in the mirror, I was like, did you even say that to her? So it actually didn't end up well. So she really got scared and she started running. And since then, I started experimenting a lot, like to understand how things work, like to just talk to people, because I've realized that many people who come from India or from similar background, they have trouble initiating a conversation or taking things forward. So luckily for me, most of my friend circle are all women, so I used to sit down with them, and then I used to observe them swiping through dating profiles and stuff. And then I used to make my profiles in such a way that I can experiment it. Like, just maybe instead of saying, for example, most dating apps, you see men just sliding in as, hey, hi, beautiful. No, that doesn't work because they've heard it millions of times. So instead of that, if we could just say something from her profile, like saying that she likes traveling, just say wasn't recent place you have traveled to. So there's a conversation starter. Like, there's something you can build up on, and I've done that. And most recently, my most successful venture in this dating industry was a dating resume. To be honest, so it is there's this app called Subtle Curry Dating. I don't think if you might know it. You know it? Yeah, I think you might definitely have seen it. So there in that in that Facebook page, what usually happens is people just put out their profiles in a rather cringy way, like say that, okay, this is what I can do. I can speak so many languages, so this is what I can do with my tongue, kind of thing. And I was like, this is not right. There is something which has to be changed. So I just created a resume where I just outlined whatever I like to do and stuff, and that kind of picked up. Like, I met, I think I've got like 18 or 20 messages after that, like from women, and then essentially from men asking, hey, can you write us a resume? I said, yes, but it's not for free. Yeah, but yeah. So it was an interesting experience, like to interact with people and then know what you actually want. So this is one thing I wished I knew when I was back in my college or high school, so that my conversations would have been much better. And since then, I've been like, yeah, I met a lot of women online and spoke to them, and then realized that, okay, just because you have an initial connection, like this was something which I have learned from my research, is initial connections you can have with many people. Like, many people, like, you say that, hey, you like dosa, I like dosa, you like aloo paratha, I like the aloo paratha. So you can have that initial connection, but then as you start to date a person, there are certain cues your gut tells you that, yes, this is good, this is bad. uh, Even the main part of law of attraction, it tells you important things, like you might be attracted to the person uh, in the first instance, but later on you might not feel that. And these days everything is online. Like, I understand it's women's safety because men out there are a little creepy, because I've seen my friend Simran's dating profile and stuff, and I was like, okay, cool, I now understand, like, why women take so much time to actually trust men. So dating profiles have all this weird sense of have a weird sense of clouding judgment. Like, you see people based on their looks on the first instance, like, and that too is all photoshop. For being a person from the film industry, I really know how to photoshop things, like really look outblown and stuff. So, but meeting someone in person gives you that uh, extra advantage where you can, where not only your minds but also your bodies interact. Like, there are a lot of talking done as per science, that even the bodies do, like maybe smell, maybe it's just maybe the thing which you just give out, your personality. And since then I was like, okay, like I kind of just play really cool as in like just myself. I don't change even a little bit of me. And then if the girl is really up to it and say, hey, let's catch up, and then the first uh, couple of minutes I just observe like how she reacts to certain things, and based on that I kind of like, okay, So I really enjoyed that transition phase where I'm actually uh, analyzing someone and then giving them a second date, to be honest. Because earlier I used to be the guy who would be like, oh, will she call me? Okay, never mind. So it's kind of like that. So it's been very interesting and very educational.
Interesting, interesting. I like the way you approached the whole question I had, and I'd like to sort of expand on that. But I want to quickly go back on the dating resume stuff and
Yeah.
sort of behavioral stuff you learned from just being around your female friends.
Mhm.
Firstly, starting off with the dating resumes, um, why do you feel like guys actually reached out to you in that? The reason I ask that is, um, well, I guess it's not the right way to frame the question, but more so in the sense that, do you feel like they reached out to you because they saw it work for you and they wanted it to work for them? If so, how, like personally, how much do you think a dating profile or a dating resume can get you in comparison to you being you as a person
Mhm.
with that person that you're interested in?
Yeah. So to answer that, the first thing is to just put a base. We are living in a generation where I call it a paradox of choice. Like we have multiple things of to choose, especially on that group. I think it's got like 1 million followers or something on that group. And it's not just in the United States. You have people from Canada, you have people from Australia and other places. So most of the profiles are based. I think, to be honest, most people are very. Everyone has the same amount of life. Like everyone likes to do certain things, and it's all the same. What was different on that was the group initially had this template saying that, okay, you guys have to just put your age, your where do you live, where do you work, what do you like, and then a really weird combination of emojis which use them in a sexual way. And I was just looking at it. Actually speaking, the whole resume idea came because I was trying to me and my sister Simran, we we are really goofballs. Like we try to just come up with the most horrendous pickup lines, and then I try it on her first. I say, Sim, what do you think? Is it good? And she'll be like, why am I friends with you? So that's so, like, for example, there was this pickup line which I really liked, and it is really awkward also. I don't know why it came up. So it's like, twinkle twinkle little star, let's make out in my car. So it's kind of like that, like so 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 I make stupid stuff like that. So I thought that if you and coming from Oklahoma, there are people there from places like California, and then Florida, the big places. I've spoken to people who used to think Oklahoma is a part of Mexico. I was like, no, it's a part of the United States. Yes, we're a very small state, but yes, this is what it is. So the resume idea just came because I was trying to slide into one of the girls' DMs. I was like, okay, so this girl's got like 1K followers, on 1K likes on her thing, like on the dating app thing. And I was like, we need something which is going to yell, like, there's one more thing which I believe: in a world which chooses to whisper, I choose to yell. That is my life goal. I was like, okay, I need something to change in his group, where if I make that, that will make people stop, take a look, and then talk. And I just thought, I want to do it. So I just did it. So I said, oh, I just created. I can also show you that it's a basic resume, like, the one you use for your jobs, but a little animated. Where I used the first thing, I just told what I do. Just said, lover of food, have good times, and dogs. That's because I like dogs. And then I told what I work, and then I had a pie chart where I kind of described what are the other things I do, where I give my time. I also included third wheeling because that's one thing I'm really good at. Like I always third wheel most of my friends who are in relationships. And then the most important fact, which really caught attention, was the languages part. So so I said Hindi because I said English because I cannot roll my R's in American accent. That's what I put. And then Hindi is Mirzapur, is a very famous TV show. Then Telugu is Bahubali, and then Punjabi. So most of my friends were like, you never speak Punjabi. I said, I've listened to all Badshah songs, so I can definitely speak Punjabi. It's just a couple of things. And that thing picked a lot. Like, people instantly knew what sort of person I was. Like, that resume was speaking volumes about me. Like, even before I just explain what else I do, how I'm such a cool guy, I just wanted to keep it settled. This is my resume. There's no one on this group who made this resume till now. There's no Indian who made this resume like this till now. So this is something from my end. Just look at it. Plus, the good part was I just wanted to do it as an experiment. So it was a one shot. I mean, what do you call it? Two birds, one shot kind of deal. Because I got like 30 followers that day from for my Instagram, and also got really amazing women who kind of reached out to me. And it was kind of, I felt really proud of myself. I was like, it's okay, I cannot tell my parents, but I was like, good job. I was like just telling myself. Like, she was telling that girls who actually DM'd me, they told that they have never DM'd a guy in their life. Like, usually they said, I kind of asked them, like, okay, what is your dating history be like, and then how many matches do you get? So the girl, after she told me that, that blew my mind. She said she just wanted to download this app Dilmil for a while. Like, she lives in Florida, and then she just downloaded for like 30 minutes, and then she's got like 125 matches in like 30 minutes. I said, wow, that is a lot of competition, like, to guess. And so, and then I was like, wow, this is interesting. So that resume idea was really helpful, to be honest. So the men, to answer your question, the men, why they reached out is they wanted to do something that way, because there's really good men out there, like, people with really good values and good intentions. They just don't know how to express, because these days things have changed so much. Like, you cannot if you just care too much, the person would be like, oh, this guy is giving me attention and stuff. I understand like how things work. Like, girls like to be chased a little, in a non-creepy sense. But they were like, bro, this was really amazing. This idea was amazing. How did you get it? I said, I drink Bonvita. I don't know why, but I just got it. So, and I've been telling them like a couple of my experiences and cues. Like, okay, this is why things are not working. Maybe just put some character in your profile. Like, just don't put a couple of four pictures of you just looking this way, looking this way, looking this way. That it looks like you're practicing your jail shots. No, that doesn't work. Just put a picture where you're actually smiling, and then put a couple of other pictures where you're doing something. Each person does a lot of things, but it just matters. Women, there's one thing is I noticed, men uh, value speed. We'll be like, it's like, your hand just moves faster than flash, like when you're swiping. And the phone screen, that even though it's just a gorilla glass, it kind of just starts to just get heated up. So women, however, they take their time to even read every single thing, to look at each picture, because that's exactly how my friends look at profiles. We sit down every Friday, we look out profiles. Like, I was like, you take so much time, yeah. I mean, swiping 10 profiles takes them literally like 30 to 35 minutes. I said, 10 profiles we can swipe in less than 0.01 seconds. That's exactly at the speed how boys go. So I was like, write something which is really good. Just don't like tacky pickup lines like, twinkle twinkle little star, will you be my pehla pyar? No, that's no. There are variations. I kind of ruined
Yeah.
that segment for kids now, but that's okay.
Just to sort of jump in really quickly on that rhyme that you made there of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Will You Be My Pehla Pyar? For those of you who don't speak Hindi, that basically means Will you be my first love?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Just to sort of jump on that a little more, and you mentioned this as your interest in. I have a ton of questions, but I'll sort of
Yeah.
jump into this one first. Um, you mentioned that you have a lot of interest in behavioral psychology and
Mhm,
like body language of people and how they interact and
mhm.
so on and so forth. But I guess one thing that anybody should take away, I believe, is that you shouldn't generalize, right? Like,
Yes.
I feel like what can happen is there's different kinds of people on either side. Like,
Mhm,
I'm sure there might be a dude out there who probably doesn't take 0.01 second to swipe through 10
mhm,
profiles. He
mhm,
probably takes a minute. and maybe there are girls who just swipe. So there's both of those extremes for sure.
Mhm.
Um, but in that sense, do you feel like people, and I don't want to necessarily make this seem very gender specific, but do you feel like people in general appreciate effort? And the reason why I say that is because the effort you put through the resume,
Mhm.
the effort you put on your post on Salkari dating
Mhm.
or on your dating profile on an app, when there's effort, it shows.
Mhm.
It shows that, oh, this person's taken time to pick their pictures, or this person's taken time to write this thing out. Like, just to boil it down simply, do people appreciate effort a lot more than we think we do? They do.
Yes, they do, and it's about the effort they actually prefer. Like, uh, to be honest, they're two different. I've actually experienced two different spectrums. Like the effort I put on the date in Dallas, which was also like unique because I've kind of planned things she hasn't seen in Dallas because she lives in Dallas. That, and then you also see the other side of spectrum where it didn't cost me much. Like not even, it just cost me like 4 or to 5 minutes of my time. And then you see actually people, like genuine people, reach out and then just say that they really enjoyed that part. I would say you just have to try. Like, it's very hard to say that because uh, different people uh, view effort in different way. When a person is actually texting you every day and stuff, there are ways where you might feel that, oh, this person is kind of clingy or something, is uh, just keep this person just keeps talking to me every day. Or there are certain people who like that. They need constant self validation saying that yes, there's someone else who actually likes me. So it definitely depends on the person, like how they view it. And and one thing I can say is, if it is so this is what I also employ in content creation, like when I just make my videos and stuff. Humor and relatability are the two things which go anywhere. They just cross boundaries, they just cross physical norms or already pre-calculated notions about how things have to be. So that's one reason why I included humor in the resume rather than just being very specific about what I'm as a person. Humor just goes.
Totally, totally, totally. I totally agree with what you just said there. But do you feel like if you sort of overanalyze things, that you can get too far deep into a rabbit hole, or too much into your head to where it might stop you from taking an action? I'm not necessarily saying
Yeah.
you, because based off of
Hmm.
everything that you've just said, you do seem like the kind of person that takes that step, that
Hmm.
takes that um, chance, that takes
Hmm.
that opportunity to put
Hmm.
themselves out there. But do you feel like the main reason that, and I know this might seem a little generalistic,
Hmm.
even though I'm being a bit of a hypocrite and said that we don't want to
Hmm.
generalize,
Hmm.
some of these questions end up being a little generalistic in the
Hmm.
sense that we all have similar questions, but we answer them differently.
Hmm.
But anyway, um, do you feel like that's sort of like, I don't want to call it performance anxiety, but um, do you feel like that's something that stops people from taking that step? Is that they go too far analyzing things and overthinking,
Yeah,
I guess.
they do it. Like out there in the dating world, you have this thing called out of your league. Like if you see someone who is like really pretty, and so I think a majority of the thing happens with your friends, like your closer circle. You'll be like, you'll be just looking at this girl, she's like really pretty, and then she gets a lot of attention from other people, and then your friend says, you don't even try, she's way out of your league. I would say there is nothing like way out of your league or way inside your league. It's all people, and people have emotions, and there are a lot of chemicals which play in your brain. Like there's a whole science about the psyche of attraction. Like there's certain people who like certain things, like they like certain things in a person's face. So I would say, if I was doing something like that, for example, if I see some random person who's like really pretty, the first thing I would do is, if there's a mutual circle around, like if she has mutual friends, considering if I'm living in Oklahoma, is definitely I know each and every person here. So I can ask them like, oh hey, I just it's not to be creepy, but I just meant to see your friend and she's really pretty, and I was thinking like, what do you think? And then I do that only with my female friends. It's not with male friends, because most of my male friends, if I see someone, the one thing I really appreciate from a male friend is that undying warrior mentality. They'll be like, do it, don't even think, just do it, it's okay. You get shot, you get killed, that's okay, just do it, just go. But I think female women are more decision oriented. They'll think like logic oriented. They'll be like, okay, so they, oh my god, okay, you guys will make a great couple, she likes these things. And then what I do is I kind of match it with the things. There are certain default options every person comes with, like default values, like saying that I cannot compromise on that. For example, in my case, I'm a vegetarian. Like I've been a vegetarian my whole life, vegetarian you can say. So I have problem with people cooking non-veg in my house, because I also practice a lot of spirituality, and as in something like I'm born in, so I just didn't want to pollute that. So that is a no-no for me. So I kind of think about it. I like, okay, first thing I'll just see is she a vegetarian or non-vegetarian? I'll ask, and then I'll know. Like if she's a vegetarian if she's a vegetarian inside the house and now a non-vegetarian outside the house, I don't care. Like it's fine as far as she respects that. And then I start to dwell deep into like what's the psyche, how does she react to difficult situations, how and how does she how like what is a personality like um is it a person who talks a lot of other people, or like there are different things like you can understand, like then certain subtle things you have to notice before you actually make that step of just saying that, hey, can you be in a relationship. These days what happens is, like, I'm not being journalistic, but I'm just being very honest. What happens is the first few two, I think, say take 2 days, what happens is you see the person, they're very attractive, you talk, oh my god, we love so many things together, so we'll definitely work out. And then you sort of make a physical connection with them, like saying that maybe you make out or have sex in general. It's not a taboo topic to me, so I am okay with talking. So then what happens is, just because the body actually reacts already, it will be very hard for you to think like, okay, this person seems to be talking. You'll see a lot of red flags, but just because you had that physical connection, you'll be like, oh no, no, because the body and mind are two different things. We always mix them in one. The body or the genitals reaction to other person or the mind's reaction are two different things. We just think just because this happening, this is what it is. No, it's not. And there most of the people actually mess things up. And that's exactly if they go in a cycle of trying to impress the person, please begging them like to be with them. And I have like a lot of friends who are still in that cycle, like they're still in the cycle of constant validation. Like if the person says, yeah, you're pretty, or the person just talks to them, it's just too much overanalyzing. Like just say, that's one reason why I just say most of my friends, I just ask them two questions. Does she fit in your circle, like in whatever you are wanting from life, the basic things. Not even me, I also don't know what I want in life, but I definitely know I want a vegetarian, that I know for sure. So if that thing is there, the relationships will be much better. Like to understand that, okay, there is a physical barrier which has to be crossed later. Because to be honest, sex is not the entire part of a relationship in any case. It doesn't matter, like it's just a byproduct of it. Like it is people have to understand that, and then things will be much better.
You did sort of bring up the fact that a lot of it is like maybe people thinking about the lack of their physical attributes
Hmm.
that might reduce their chances of being in someone's league
Hmm.
or things like that. But at the end of the day, like from everything you just said, it's more about just shooting your shot, right?
Hmm.
It's more about taking that shot. You never know. Maybe someone who's out of your league might actually admire you for trying,
Hmm.
because a lot of the times we accept defeat without even trying.
Yes.
And that's something that you said earlier too,
Hmm.
right? It's like you want to take that opportunity rather than regret not taking the opportunity and
Hmm.
feel like this sense of rejection. In that sense, like Well, firstly, I need to ask, in the junction, in the juncture of life that you're in currently, what are you looking for? Are you looking for just a, I don't want to make it sound so crude, but are you looking for like a temporary partner, or are you looking for like your future life and your future life?
I mean, in all these years, I'm 27 by the way. So in all these years, I have one thing which I didn't change was I always look out for a permanent partner because one thing which what I do, like growing up, I had ADHD, so that thing is still there, but I kind of converted that into my strength, where I just put it in creative stuff, maybe filmmaking or painting or other stuff, because I don't have much time. Like, because the only thing what I do is after work is just think about what I can do next, what is a new thing which I have to show people which they have never seen before. So that takes up a lot of mental energy. And then a relationship, and then when you just go out constantly just finding new people to talk to, like, in a dating thing, you cannot just play, you cannot you just have to, you cannot play your game really dull, because that thing would interest the person. So you have to be at the peak. You have to be like your actual, that exuberant person who's like full of power and the brain mental capacity. So if you don't do that, and if you keep doing that, or if you keep doing that, that takes up a lot of space. So I would be like, I'm one of those people who would be like, just find one person. I just see that, okay, there's one person, I really like her, she likes me, she understands where I come from, she understands my wishes to actually go out, pursue something else, and also do my job. Because I've got a lot of people who rejected me just because I was also an actor. I mean, in matrimonial sites and stuff. So uh, once if I find that person, I'm good with it. Like, I don't. I just say, okay, yes, I found the person who loves me. She found the person who loves her. That's it. And but I'll definitely say one thing, that uh, I'll be very careful initially to take not make my hormones take the better of me, because hormones always cloud judgment. You'll be like, yeah, you'll be like, oh yeah, this person I like because she likes the same things as I do. But even if you're not fully attracted to the person, that might be a problem in the long run. Like, you should be completely attracted to the person, because there's a difference between that. Like, attraction the first time you see the person, and then after you see the person after like 50 or 20 or 30 days of talking to the person, completely differentiates. Because the first time when you're seeing the person, you just go by the looks. You'll be like, yeah, there's certain things I like, certain things I don't. But as you see the person every day, there's this sense of you get used to the person. It's the same thing with our friends. Like, they were roommates. I mean, at UCO you were with a lot of roommates, I guess. So first you might think that this guy is an idiot, but then as you see them every day, the flaws in the person eventually vanish. So that is a good thing. That can also be a bad thing, because later on when you realize that, oh yeah, there's a better person with the same qualities, that's exactly how cheating begins. So initially what I do now is, when I talk to people, I just say, it's like two different people. I have two different people in me. It's like, oh my god, yes, I'm talking. She's talking to me. Oh my god! And then we have like all these songs playing. I was like, wait, calm down, cool. Let's talk. You meet them in first. You meet first, because the brain first sees things. Brain will tell you one thing. Brain will be like, yes, this seems to be a very genuine person. I think you should be with her because she complements whatever you are looking for. She's 100% histocompatibility. You should go for it. The body will be like, yeah, but it'll be better if I meet her. Like, so our bodies can also talk, like, not in a very sexual way, but just even if you just meet the person in a date, the bodies do a lot of talking. There is an actual
Yeah,
is-
body language,
body
basically.
language, body language, and there is actually a thing. There's a book called Please to Meet Me. Is a book where about, like, you might have had this conversation or this question, like, you go to a wedding, and then you see that the girl looks super, like, she looks like a model, and the guy looks like a taco seller or something, like, you get the point. He doesn't look great, like, they don't look like a match. But what happens is the DNA which plays the whole thing, the DNA, the facial symmetry. So definitely I would say the person has to meet in person. Like those two people have to meet in person. The bodies have to do the talking as well, and then come back, evaluate. Men have this weird problem of over promising and under delivering that most of the girls have complaints with. So I try to keep my mouth shut, because as a person who speaks a lot, I have this problem. So what I do is, whenever I feel like I'm going to talk a lot, I just have a bottle of water with me. I just put it in my mouth and just wait, and then I like, okay, let's say this. That will make sure that long-term relationships will be much better, because it's always better to look for a permanent partner, because I think, and there's no concept of soulmate, to be honest. Soulmate is the whole concept of soulmate is just trash, because to be honest, you can there's 7.4 billion people on the planet. You can be a match with almost at least 13 million people. There are 13 million people in females exactly like the same way you want them to be. The facial texture, the way they dress, the way they are, the body type, or the personality. So the whole concept of soulmate, oh yeah, I found my soulmate. No, she's not your soulmate. She's just one partner you meant to have found in the course of time, because that's exactly how you guys met. So that's the whole concept of how I look at things.
Interesting. No, totally. I take your point about the soulmates thing, but I think it's also sort of like the different way that we look at the word soulmate, right? Because I
Hmm.
feel like they're not necessarily thinking about compatibilities. Or no, no, I guess I'll take that back. No, I can't take it back. I already said it. But I feel like our perception of that word is very different, right? For some people, soulmate means like that one person that you connect
Yes.
with, that you've
Hmm.
never found that connection with. Whereas in another sense, one sees a soulmate as somebody who's friends with you, who sort of
Hmm.
understands you. Like, because if you look at it from that perspective,
Hmm.
sometimes people might say that a lot of your friends are also your soulmates. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Hmm.
they sort of resonate with you. You feel like, for example, I mean, based off of what you've been saying, I'm a believer that I don't want to assume, but I'll ask you:
Yeah. Mm.
are you like a believer in energies and like people's
Yes.
energies and all that sort of stuff? Yeah.
Yes.
So in that sense, like you can sort of connect that to being like, oh, this person's energy makes me feel a lot better when I'm around them and stuff. So
Mm.
I can see both sides to where our perspective of the word soulmate changes. But to sort of dig deeper into finding a permanent partner and all that sort of stuff, what's your perspective on, I mean, I don't want to make this negative, but I feel like
Mm.
it's a good topic of
Hmm.
conversation. What's your take on divorce?
Mm. So, to reflect on the first soulmate thing, so yes, I completely agree with that, because there's also a theory about in quantum physics where it talks about energy, and then what sort of energy you emit, and what sort of energy you have to process in a day. And the whole soulmate thing about friends is also part of a tribe which has been there since inception. Like, since the first man has seen this planet. That's exactly how tribes are formed. And yes, that is, I agree with that energy sharing thing, and agree. And I only disagree with the fact that most media, and I hate to see that, being a person who's also acting in certain movies and web series, where I show fake love to another person I don't actually like. So that might sound a little hypocritical, but that's fine. The whole concept of soulmate has been completely polluted by the movie industry, to be honest, where they overblow a couple of things, saying that, hey, this is my thing, this happens. Like I said, no, nothing happens. Shit doesn't fall, flowers don't fall, the climate doesn't react unless you're doing some voodoo mind trick or something. But yeah, that thing is gone. And coming to this point, a divorce, I agree with it. I agree in the sense, uh divorces mostly happen, like you see most celebrity divorces, like after they live in marriages for 18 years or stuff. It it essentially, I feel, it essentially happens is not because they've fallen out of love or something, either because they have changed. People change, and people change a lot. Like, people, for example, certain people who were like really dickheads when I saw them the first time, they change into really good people. uh, and I think that transition, when it happens and then two people are not able to balance the transition between each other, that's when people take divorce. And coming to the Indian way of viewing divorce, it is considered taboo. Like, you don't see that. Like, they have seen people who are in really bad relationships or marriages kind of complain every day that, oh yeah, this has been how things are happening in my house, and saying that they didn't have choice. You have a choice. Like, essentially you have a choice to stand up. The only thing I think to prevent divorces is that you just have to work together. Like, even relationship is kind of a lot of work. People just take it for granted. It takes a lot of work to manage a relationship together. And if it comes from one side, it is really hard. Like, the other person should know you, like your best friend. Like, your best friend, he understands. Like, doesn't matter you talk to him for like 1 day or 2 days, or you don't talk to him for a whole week, he knows that, okay, this guy I can go back to. So that is the difference between attraction and connection. When you form a connection, that can last long time. But as you go forward, if the connection is lost, or there's a new connection from somewhere else, like how celebrities kind of dwindle, that's when people go berserk. And it's not a wrong thing. Like, to be honest, society might see it in that way, or parents might see it in that way, but divorce is not a bad thing to do. Like, it's just people. We are people. We are going through stuff. We are going through life, and it is a part and parcel of life. You cannot have a perfect life just to show that. You cannot cry inside and just to show that. Yeah, at public parties when you go with your friends and your wife and say, "Yeah, I'm having a very happy marriage. My wife is a very happy person. She keeps me great. I'm very happy." You see that. You see that death in your face when you're saying that. No, you should. You don't have to force it. It has to come naturally. So that's my take on it.
Totally, totally. I just wanted to mention a couple of things before we go into the next question.
Yes.
Firstly, I couple of people that like sparked into my mind when you were mentioning that was people who had conversations about this, sort of read about what they have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, Jay Shetty, who's like this
I know.
media influencer, life coach, whatever you want to call him.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I remember him talking on a podcast episode where um, he sort of mentions the three types of relationships,
Mm-hmm.
in that there's a relationship where you are the parent
Mm-hmm.
and your partner is the child.
Mm-hmm.
In the second relationship, it's the vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
where they're your parent and you're the child.
Yeah.
And then in the third relationship, it's sort of like you both are at a similar level where you figure out a way to grow together.
Yes.
And usually that's the kind of relationship that lasts a lot longer
Mm-hmm.
in comparison to relationships where one of them is the parent and one of them is the child,
Right.
because it can constantly feel like the parent is pouring out so much and
Mm-hmm.
they're not necessarily reciprocating in that
Yeah.
sense to sort of connect
Mm-hmm.
and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I have no experience in being in relationships. I'm going to put that disclaimer out there. So this is just based
Mm-hmm.
off of anecdotes and
So
things that I've heard.
you're basically telling you're still single. So, audience, so definitely guys, you can just shoot him up your shot, because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
So yeah, you might get a lot of DMs now, brother. So it'll be really interesting thing to see.
Let's see. We'll find out. We'll find out. Anyway, um, and the second person that I've sort of heard talk about this briefly is Ankur Warikoo. I don't know if you've heard of this person.
Hmm.
Um, he's, I guess, the what's the company he started? The name escapes my mind now. Um, anyway, now he's pretty much big in the Indian sort of social
Hmm.
media space, where he talks a lot about self improvement, growth, and so on and so forth. And I remember him talking about, yeah, if the company name pops up, the company that he started, I'll mention it.
Hmm.
But basically, he sort of talked about growth rates,
Hmm.
about how people's growth rates are very different because everybody grows differently.
Yes.
And even when you're a partner, even when you're in a relationship with somebody else, you might grow a lot quicker than somebody else.
Hmm.
But then going back to that Jay Shetty thing,
Hmm.
where you grow together, you can sort of help that person grow up with you or whatever.
Hmm.
So there's that balance, there's that sort of balance that you create in those things.
Hmm.
So I just wanted to mention those two things because as you were talking about it, it sort
Yeah.
of brought that up for me. And you can add on this if you want to. I'll go ahead and ask the next question, and then you can
Hmm.
choose the way to answer it.
Hmm.
Do you feel like people in the Western world
Hmm.
struggle to sort of understand, or struggle to sort of understand maybe this concept of like growing together, or what's the word I'm looking for? Or do you feel like they jump out of certain situations a little too quickly, in the sense of divorce rates and all that sort of stuff? Because if you were to compare the
Hmm.
divorce rates,
Hmm.
I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I'm certain that it's a lot more prevalent in the West than it is in the East. Now, I'm not saying that people in the East are happy go lucky and
Hmm.
all that, because
Hmm.
there are relationships where things are sour, but then they keep along because of families and
Hmm.
familial pressure and kids and so on. So I'm not necessarily lauding that either. But
Hmm.
just from the perspective of now two Indian dudes living in the West,
Hmm.
what is your perception of the way, or what is your perception of divorce in the West in terms of how they sort of use it in their lives?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question. Like, I can just give an example of my workspace. So, to be honest, I'm the only Indian in my whole entire office, and also the most loved one, definitely. Yeah. So my boss or my other colleagues, the involvement of them in my relationships or my dating adventures has been phenomenal, and they also learn a lot from me, and I learn a lot from them. And so the first thing what my boss usually tells is, Ashwin, yeah, it just says, Ashwin, you should start drinking. I said, I never drink. So I was like, why? So because that's exactly, he said, how we pick women in the US. It's like you go to a bar, and then this pre-COVID, by the way, and you go to a bar, and then you just talk, and then you see some lady, and then you just go and get a drink, and then you score your score, and then later on you kind of date for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then you marry, and then just go with the flow. The main thing I understood was they go for speed, at the speed as in like how fast we can get close to a person, how far we can get physical, and then how far we can just go together. But later on, as they start living together and understand, they see a lot of problems that maybe they have it from the ex-husbands and stuff. So it is a very confusing space to be, because when I go to mostly my white friends family and stuff, I get really confused. Like, I get confused to the level where, how, I'll give you a complete example. Like, do you know, like, it will kind of gets messy when Indians kind of introduce your friend, their cousins, the list of cousins. Like, my uncle's uncle's grandfather, my uncle's sister's grandfather is the same way. I once go to a family, I see like 10 people, and then I don't understand whose wife is whose. Like, they'll say, this is my ex-wife's first husband, this is my first wife's second husband. I was like, what is going on? So they take things, and they look at me completely differently, because the way I do dating, like, I earlier it was different after the first heartbreak and first slap, to be honest. But now if I just tell my boss that, okay, like, I showed him this resume, and he was like, wow, this is very interesting and stuff. And uh and then he asked me, like, did you have any people? Yes, I'm speaking there, like 18 people. Out of 18 people, I kind of filtered four, and I'm just talking to three, which are like really amazing. uh so and he gets surprised. He's like, what's taking you guys so long to meet and just go forward with it? I said, no, we take things differently here. Like, in India, we have other things to look for as well. We just cannot directly jump, because we have the whole familial bonding thing, which Americans don't have, is which I feel like they are close, but it is weird that they have to take an appointment to see their parents. If you understand what I'm saying, it's like
Hmm.
it's like there are a couple of situations I have seen that, when my colleagues and their families come, it's kind of like they split they split the food, like split food as in like after the bill and stuff. We never had the concept. Like, it's not like you have to take an appointment, call ahead your parents and say, my sister. For example, if my sister is there, if I have to meet my sister, I just have to just go home. I'm always welcome there. That's my home. That's basically my sister's home. Americans, they do it in a different way. They call ahead, they schedule a time saying that, hey, I'll be here. Then they meet. And I think that's all a Western culture thing. Like, and they see me so differently. And the funny fact is, my boss, he also, when there was a time when I was not dating at all. And my boss was like, hey Ashwin, I have a brilliant idea for you. You can just date people like this and also be a permanent citizen here. I said, what? He said, there is this app called it's called prisonbabes.com. It's Please guys, don't, you can search it, it's not a porno or something. So it's basically a dating app for people who are incarcerated in prison. So he said you can actually marry or date someone. He was showing me this website. So there's all these convicts on there, like people who have killed two people or people who are overdosed on drugs. He was like, select the person you like, marry them, then they'll again kill someone, and then they'll go to jail. Then you'll be free. And I was like, what if they kill me? There is a possibility, right? And I was like, it is so funny, man. Like the dating experiences which I have and the ones which I share with my colleagues are like, there are times they kind of train me about how to get dressed. I agree that, like, yes, I cannot just go in my costume and stuff. Some people might like it, some people might think that's weird, but Western culture and then being a person stuck between this part is so difficult. It's like you have to explain. I had to explain the whole arranged marriage situation to my colleagues, and they were like, they didn't even know. And yeah, that's my whole take on it.
I get where you're coming from in terms of the sort of level of speed that they want in their relationships, I suppose. And even with like dating culture or friends with benefits sort of culture or fuck buddy culture or
Yeah.
whatever it is, like all of these dating apps have also become a breeding ground for that.
Yes.
So I know, like personally, it doesn't align with your outlook on approaching this topic, so to speak. But do you have a sense of empathy for the way that they go about this journey? Or do you feel like there's some things that they could do to change? Um, I know that's sort of like a loaded question, I guess, to think about. But the reason I ask this is because I think a lot of the times, as humans, we can sort of forget to empathize with people who don't have the same beliefs as us. So I was just curious to sort of get your take on that. In that, even though their beliefs don't necessarily align with yours, do you have a level of empathy for them? Firstly, and second of all, to add on that question, maybe it's not necessarily the same, like a sort of offshoot of that question, but just a second question. I sort of see that we need to learn things from both cultures to make things work the best. If you see it the same way, and if you don't, you can sort of elaborate on why, but if you do, what are some things that you would pick out from either culture to make? And again, like ideal relationships are not necessarily ideal because life is real. But what would your outlook be on that? So those are the two questions. Firstly,
So to reflect on the first one, yes, empathize with them. And so I have a couple of friends who also do friends with benefits, and people who just like fuck buddies and stuff. And that's totally okay, because you tell the other person upfront. There is a paradox here. Like, most people use love as a very cheap term right now. Like, it's, I love you is very considered a very cheap term. It's much better you don't say it. Just don't say it. Just show like how you love the person. That's it. Most people, if they want sex, just say it. Hey, I'm looking for just a temporary relationship. It's nothing, there's not even a relationship, it's just like friends with benefits. If you put that out there, the other person wouldn't expect anything, because you know what, and what goes on in a person's mind is, we never know what the other person is thinking. Like, if you don't say it out loud, that's one thing which I always make sure that I understand, people understand, that have a definition that, you don't have to define it in a dictionary, but just say it that, hey, this is what I want. And if you just uh, cover that up with something else just to make sure that, okay, I just want sex, but I'll just say it's love, it'll it'll completely change the person's perspective about how she's going to take the next relationship forward. And that is one thing I felt about that. And the second, to answer the second question, yes, I take personally a lot of things from the Western culture and as well as the Indian thing, because in Indian notion there's a lot of things, man. Like, to be honest, earlier my dating journey used to be like something like this, where I used to look at the girl and then I'd be like, yeah, this girl is good. I see vegetarian, check. And then the next thing, what was there was, I used to ask her for birthday. Like, she'd be like, okay, I was born on 29th July. And then I'll like, which year? 1998 or something. And then I'll be like, what time? And she'll be like, why? And I'm like, meanwhile I'll be like, okay, I'll be taking out my my that astrology chart. I'll be like, okay, this might work, this might work. And that is so messed up. Like, you cannot guarantee. And agree, astrology has a lot of things based on, I started reading about this as well. Astrology is basically what, because certain planetary motions affect certain emotions in certain way. Based on that, they devise a chart saying that this, because for example there's a Leo and a Virgo, for example, they kind of gel, because the Leos are someone, I'm a Leo, and I'm someone who likes attention. I like attention, I like standing out and different. Virgos are someone who actually are more analytical or conservative. They kind of think like, they do not want limelight, but they complement a Leo. Is like, if you have two Leos in one place, it might get a little messy, and because both of them want equal amount of that attention. So that is where horoscope plays. But when you actually meet a person, like, not generalizing, but Leos can be amazing, I know myself. Yeah. So if you meet an actual person and then you think there's a connection that you'll 100%, your gut tells you, your gut says yes, this will work. The moment your gut tells you that, you can just close your eyes and go with it. Because, and then even if the horoscopes don't match, even if there is this thing that in Indian thing, there's a current thing called manglik. It's a term given.
Yeah.
So if you have certain problems with your astrology, you have to marry a tree or a dog first. So and it's funny because I had a friend who's from a state called Rajasthan, and his mom she's a visionary. She knew that this guy had some problems in his horoscope, so she started growing a tree in her house the moment this guy was born. So by the time this guy was 25, what happened was, it's time to look for a bride. And her mom actually said, okay, now it's time to look for a bride, so I'll get my son married to a tree first. But the guy who was actually conducting marriage said, hey, you cannot get your son married to this tree, because that's literally a sibling, because you both were in the same household. So he could not get married that day. And then things were like, it was really funny to see that, but it's also like, oh my god, people think that way. So it is a balance. Like, I feel like, you should, the Western culture does have a lot of good things where it's seeing beyond personal norms or financial requirements or stuff. Arranged marriages don't operate that way, unfortunately. Arranged marriage, you don't have a chance to meet the person in person exactly. So the first thing they see you is a photo, the height, your salary, and your and if you have any properties and stuff. That's exactly when you get to talk to the person, and that's exactly how things go on in a matrimony site as of now.
Right, right. Just to add on that point, I do feel like arranged marriages have evolved from just being, oh, there's this guy in this town who has these two pieces of land. I'll get my daughter married to
Yeah.
him. Versus now, there is that opportunity where, while there is this very materialistic approach to it in some sense,
Mhm.
people are also allowed to sort of meet each other and so on and so forth. So I guess there is a bit of that today as well. But I totally take your point about that in the sense that, it can sometimes feel like, and especially with Indian marriages, it's like two families getting married
Mhm.
more than just the two people getting married. So for some people, I feel like it can come across as, especially when we speak to the Western world about something like this, for them it's going to feel like you're adding baggage to the relationship that you don't need.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas from an Indian perspective, it's just part of life. Like, it's just a thing. It's not it's been normalized for us for as long as we've existed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a lot of those differences sort of tend to surprise the other culture. But then, yeah, I totally agree with you in the sense that there are things that we can learn from all of these cultures to sort of help adapt
I'm sorry
our
to
outlook
interrupt.
on
I just wanted to tell
relationships.
something,
Yeah,
just one
go
thing.
ahead.
So, like you said, the main difference of why this happens, like why we are close knit to a family, is because uh, this comes from the first time. Because India, to be honest, is a very, as per the area, is a smaller place compared to the US. So, even if we didn't want to live with people, we were forced to live around people. So, that has been engraved in a DNA since generations. And America, it's got very little people and a lot of space, like a lot of space. So there is an option for them to leave their house and then make a new house. They have their revenues. Like considering the property values in India, even if you have to make a new house, everything is nothing less than 1 million or like 2 million now these days. So yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add that.
No, no, totally, totally. I
Yeah.
take your point, and that's an interesting point to think about too, because of our populations and how that has a role to play. Because
Mhm.
I don't think that's something that anybody thinks about necessarily. But now that you sort of put that point in the conversation, I think it's very interesting to sort of think about, in that how our upbringings and experiences, like you mentioned earlier, which I totally agree with, like sort of shape our frame of reference of life.
Mhm.
So all of those things have definitely a role to play. uh, but yeah, just a couple more questions before we go into the latter stages of the
Yeah.
podcast with
Mhm.
the word association game. Firstly, you mentioned that you sort of seek specific, you speak, bleh. You seek certain characteristics, for the lack of a
Yeah.
better word, in your future partner. I feel like sometimes, well, I mean, this is just a general question again from
Mhm.
somebody who has no clue what he's talking about in terms of relationships. But
Mhm.
do you feel like, and I kind of feel like it's a thing about perspective, but I
Mhm.
just wanted to get your opinion on this. Do you feel like having characteristics can be limiting, to where it limits you from exploring the wider world out there? Or do you see it as you knowing what you want, and that's what you're gonna attack? I mean, not attack,
Mhm.
but like work towards.
Yeah. I would say characteristics as in like I mean, to understand your question, is it what you're asking, if having a set of characters and characteristics and beliefs and then going forward with the relationship, is it what you're asking? Is it what you're asking?
Yeah, in the sense that, so for example, to use your own example,
Mhm.
you prefer to have a vegetarian partner,
Yes,
right?
yes. Hmm.
So do you feel like that limits you, or do you feel like that helps you know, like, okay, this is what I want and this is what I'm gonna go for?
Okay.
Because I
So
feel like sometimes for some people, and this is again, like,
mhm.
this is
Yeah.
maybe just a more macroscopic view of
Hmm.
it, but I feel like sometimes people can see that as it limiting the
Hmm.
choices that you have and
Hmm.
sort of limiting exploration, if you will.
Yeah.
um, so how do you view those two dynamics of the choices that, or the preferences that you have?
Hmm. So to reflect on that, so being your diet and your religion and like what beliefs you hold of this world and then political beliefs, these all can be interchanged, like it doesn't stay the same. If you want them to stay the same, they will. But personally for me, I would say, if you experiment with it, for example, I don't want to say this, but being in the US, it's really hard to be a vegetarian, even a vegetarian. To be honest, I've eaten almost all animals unknowingly, because there was a time when I was in a pizza shop in Norman, and then they had I think they had pepperoni on the pizza, which I didn't know how pepperoni looked. I thought they were Roma tomatoes, and I just had it. So, and that thing is one, and then next thing is I also had certain type of experiences with certain people where they were perfect non-vegetarians, and then in my old apartment, I definitely made them. They cooked a whole ass chicken in my house, and I just wanted to see, like, okay, maybe maybe it's an overkill, or let me see how it feels like, to have someone cook something. And I was not comfortable. Like, there was this part of me which was like, this is red light, red light, red light, no, 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 it's a no. So unless you experiment, like there's certain, my most of my friends are also vegetarians, which I know, they've experimented that, they like that way of living, they live it. So what you have to do is you just have to experiment. If you see you're comfortable with it, you can go for it. And I have tried it multiple times. I at least try experimenting anything 3 times before saying that is a quit. Like I mean, based on my default beliefs about certain things. So that's what I've done. Like, I've definitely given a couple of people chance to be around me and eat fish or anything else. And I didn't like the way that it tastes or smell in general. Like, I was not able to take it. So I was like, okay, I don't think this is my forte, like, in any case. So that's when kind of did this. And there is this thing, it's an interesting thing, because you asked, because this is one thing we are always asked to reflect as an actor. Like, when I so I've actually gone to a school, like an acting school here in Norman, and then the acting coach there is someone who has also casted for Breaking Bad. So so there are like a lot of experienced people. So they told me a couple of things. They said, okay, Ashwin, they call me Ashwin, by the way, they cannot say my name
Right.
properly. So Ashwin. So what they actually told me was, when you're deciding on a character, like on a person, like when someone tells you that, Ashwin, you have to be playing this character, always ask his diet, religious beliefs, and what he thinks are the only way he sees the world as. Because that thing helps an actor very much to play out his part. Because most of the characters are just basic characters. Like, for example, there's a I don't think I can talk much about it, but there was American movie which I recently I'm working on. It's still in shooting and stuff. There, I just got like the assistant directors, and they have just sent me a couple of things saying that, hey, Ashwin, so this is your character, this is your storyline, this is what you have to do. So the first thing I said was, I think we should have a call. Let's talk about the person's psyche. Like, okay, what type of a person he is. Like, how does he react to certain things? How does he be around women? Or what is his character's beliefs? So they told me this person does this. It helped me understand that, I can be happy around this, be like this about this. And that applies to real life as well. You can experiment with it, you can experiment, change your beliefs about it, and be good with it. I think only a human can do that. That's exactly why we're on the top of the food chain, because we necessarily can change ourselves how many ever times we want. And I think acting, to be honest, has helped me a lot understand uh, how things work. And acting has also taught me to never date someone from the same industry as you. So never do that. That's really a bad thing to do. Some people it might work, but personally, from my experience, no, it's not a good thing.
Hmm. Totally, totally. No, I see where you're coming from. And yeah, I mean, I was just looking at how long we've been going, and we've been going for close to an hour and a
Yeah.
half, just talking about dating and life.
Yes.
But I would like to sort of talk about your experiences working on movies and
Hmm.
telling stories and things like that.
Hmm.
I mean, I'll keep this in the recording because I don't mind. But would you
Yeah.
be open to doing another recording where we talk about all of that and
Hell
go into
yes.
depth with that?
Yes. Yes. Hell yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Awesome, awesome, totally. Thank you so much. But yeah, just one more. This is a question that popped up as you were talking about it because I feel like it's another thing that we sort of characterize
Mhm.
in terms of what we want out of our future partner.
Mhm.
Um, and to sort of add more context to this question, you mentioned earlier that you look at sex as a pious act,
Mhm.
um, where two people come together and
Mhm.
so on and so forth. And if you're not comfortable answering this, it's totally
Mhm.
fine. But do you again, this is going to go to maybe for
It's
some
okay.
people might be a bit of an
Yeah.
uncomfortable conversation,
We'll
but
have a disclaimer.
please
That's
feel free
okay.
to
Yeah.
yeah. And no, like if you don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable, just
Mhm.
let me know. That's
Yeah.
totally
Yeah. Sure.
fine.
Sure. Sure.
But do you feel like, or well, not you, but
Mhm.
do you have a preference for your partner's virginity? Do you think that you want or you want a partner who's a virgin, or are you open to them having had a sexual relationship before?
it doesn't matter, to be honest. Like, the one thing you have to actually look for is what that person is for you. Like, because see, it makes sense, because see, as a person who's actually researching behavioral psychology, I understood earlier. I used to be like, no, my partner should be a virgin, and there are certain things which I actually believed in. But as I've noticed that there are multiple things and observing people and stuff, one thing I realized was, you an amazing person, she didn't get to see you that time, and then there's someone else who was playing your part. And the body has its own needs. There are certain needs the body needs to be met. For people who are not more aware, like, when, for example, take your 17-year-old or 18-year-old, like, in general, that's the peak of where your body controls majority of your emotions in general. Like, it is very hard to stay focused on it. That's exactly how meditation helps people in general. Coming to the question, when something like that happens to her much earlier in life, like like when she's 18 or something, it's just a body. Like, you cannot, I believe in a lot of spirituality, yes. You cannot take this body anywhere. Like, the only thing after you die remains is ash. So if she has any relationships in the past, I don't care. I only care about what she is for me today and now. So that's
Yeah.
my take on that. So I don't care. Just you be peaceful, just let me be peaceful, and life will just go on in its own pace, so there's nothing else to worry about.
The reason why I asked that question to you about the virginity thing is
Mm.
also because it's something that I've thought about.
Yeah.
It's something where I, at this point in time, as I stand, I wish to go into my marriage being a virgin.
Hmm.
That's just how I look at it
Hmm.
at this point in time. But like just like you, I don't necessarily have that expectation from
Yeah.
my partner to be,
Hmm.
because that would be foolish of me if that's the deal breaker.
Yeah.
Because if you look at it from another perspective, it's also that we're in a generation where having sex is like a cool thing, like,
Yeah.
oh, I've had sex,
Hmm.
it's like someone who has a higher body count is like, oh, look at that guy, he's
Yeah.
had such a high body count,
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff.
To be honest, until last year, I didn't know what body count meant. I thought, there was a time when one of my friends or someone asked me, hey, what's your body count? I was like 354. I was like, what? You had sex with so many people? I said, I thought you were asking me about Call of Duty. I didn't know what he meant. I was like, did you
Yeah.
ask me how many people have killed or run over in GTA or Call of Duty? I was like, oh, that's what body count meant. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good, you're good,
Yeah.
you're good. But yeah, I think, and that's also the funny thing about society, right? Like, for example, I think in some Western cultures, if a dude hasn't slept with as many people or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
he's sort of looked down upon as being like, oh, look at this guy, like,
Mm.
um, doesn't have it in him to do whatever and so
Yes.
on.
Yes.
So dudes get shamed for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you look at the Indian perspective and look at girls who've sort of chosen that avenue to like
Mm-hmm.
be in sexual relationships with
Mm-hmm.
multiple people, and again, like, I'm nobody to judge, because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you are the person who determines what makes you happy.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's whatever, and that person gets slut shamed for
Yes.
sleeping around or whatever
Yes.
and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So in all those sort of things, I think, like, and even from our familial influences and all that, we build these certain perspectives like, oh, I don't want someone who's slept with so many people,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't want a guy who's not even done it once and all that sort of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I maybe part of it also feeds our ego,
Yeah.
in the sense that, oh, like, I'm doing this with someone who's losing it to me or whatever,
Yeah.
like, it's all that sort of dominating egoistic
Yeah.
shit that tends to pop into our minds.
Mm-hmm.
So which is why I was just curious to sort of get your take on it, because I think especially as we're both of us, I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
23, I
Mm-hmm.
turned 24 later this year, so I still have a little bit of time, but
Mm-hmm.
we're all entering that phase where we will end up having these conversations with our parents. So you're
Yes.
already having that conversation with
Mm-hmm.
your parents, um, so thinking about things like this, I do feel is important,
Mm-hmm.
because it helps you know what you want.
Right.
in many ways, and I think that's much better than not knowing what you want.
Hmm.
But at the same time, when you know what you want, you should be open to explore. I'm
Yes.
not saying that you should sort of keep a
Hmm.
closed mind, just like you said. I'm just
Hmm.
reiterating some things that you mentioned
Right.
earlier. But yeah, I think it's all of those things also that play a huge role.
Hmm.
Because not to say that I've tried a
Hmm.
couple of times, because I was interested in a couple of people, but neither of them worked out, which is fine.
Hmm.
But I learned a lot from it. um, I feel like from the first experience that I had, I learned a lot about expectations that we keep from people.
Yes.
um, because I had all of these things in my mind being like, oh, this will happen, that will happen, so on and so forth,
Hmm.
without even and this is like a I'll maybe talk about this like fully in an episode, because I want to sort of
Hmm.
dig into that a little more. But just to sort of um, I guess this is a bit of a teaser for you people who are listening or watching. um, it was a process of 6 months where I gave myself time to see if I really liked the person.
Hmm.
And after I saw that nothing was sort of, my mind wasn't going anywhere else, I was like, okay, maybe I should try it out. But anyway, like in those 6 months, I sort of built this level of expectation, which now that I look back on it is really stupid, because you don't even, you're not even in a relationship with this person.
Hmm.
How on earth can you expect something from them?
Right. Hmm.
So it's stuff like that, and I feel like you have to sort of learn to detach yourself from certain expectations that you might have as well, unless you've sort of made it known to the person. If the person knows, then sure. But if the person doesn't know, you're not you're not going to help yourself or that person by having these expectations without letting them know. So it's really interesting in that sense to sort of think about all of this and ponder on it as we sort of get into that phase of life where, you know 2 or 3 years down the road you might have a partner, or
Hmm.
3 or 4 years down the road I might have a partner. So it's really interesting to sort of think about, especially because I think as dudes sometimes we might be afraid to have these conversations,
Hmm.
at least openly. um I might be wrong. I'm sure maybe there are some dudes who are open to having these conversations, just like the two of us are.
It's
But
just a taboo. Like most people don't want to face things which they are currently dealing with. That might be
right,
taken as a case, and because everyone wants to be an alpha male, like saying that, hey, I'm the man. Like, no, it's okay to be vulnerable. That's fine.
yeah, yeah, totally, 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 totally. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, um, I think it's also understanding that, right? Like there will be phases where you will have to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
Like you asking that first person out, asking them to get married to you was also like vulnerability in some sense, right?
Yes.
You were opening up to her about your feelings.
Hmm.
um and with the second person, that anecdote that you shared about, like setting up a whole day for her for
Hmm.
experiences and whatnot, that's also sort of showing that you're going out of your way to do something for this
Hmm.
person, which is sort of openly expressing those feelings,
Hmm.
or whatever it may be. I do think that in this sort of, like you said, that alpha male mentality, we
Hmm.
forget that even an alpha needs to be vulnerable at times.
Yeah.
If someone looks at themselves as an alpha male, and just because you're a vulnerable person doesn't necessarily make you a beta male, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. It is. It's like how it's like the metric you use to gauge your progress. Like, to be honest, you are a spiritual person. If you, like, what people do is compare two different years, like 2021 and 2022. Like, how am I different? The first thing they do is they see, okay, I've been here, I've been with this person, I've done this. No, you have to, the first thing you have to gauge is your behavior to certain things. Like, you get ghosted on a dating app in 2021, maybe you'd be like, oh, that be at, you just kind of just give her a lot of shit. For she doesn't deserve it. She can definitely walk away whenever she wants. It doesn't matter, because you're strangers. And it's like you gauge your behavior, like, okay, how do you react to it? For example, if I get ghosted on the internet or something, I'll be like, it's fine, cool, because you know your worth. It's not like I know whatever I can do. I know what my skills are. I know what it is. If I want to do it, I can do it. It's not, no one is stopping me from it. So it's about that. And a lot of things which you said about not letting the person know is, yes, it sounds like a school romance. It's definitely yes. It's because in most schools everywhere, that's what happens. Like, you and your best friend know. I think other than you, everyone else knows that you like that girl except the girl. So the girl has zero clue that, oh, that guy likes me, because that happened to me multiple times, and that's why I was. And yes, you're right about it. Like, if you're really specific about just telling her, it's no matter, it's nothing wrong. Like, you can just tell her, like, hey, this is what it is. Like, I really like you, and I was thinking if we can take things forward, rather than saying I want to get married, because that will definitely make people run away.
Yeah.
It's like you have to give the other person a chance to breathe, because we as humans, we already are kind of a lot buried in a lot of deadlines, and things to complete before certain times. So, and then when a person comes to your life and then gives you a deadline saying that, hey, okay, we have to just do this is, there is no timetable for a relationship. It's a consistent way of just walking with it. You can never know when there's love. Is not a natural happening, it just develops over time. And if you just force it and just say, instead, you can just say this, hey, I really think you are an interesting person. There are many things we do kind of match with each other, and your personality really reflects to me. How about we just try dating and see if we are actually really good compatible, like we are compatible with each other. And if it is a yes, then definitely yes, I would like to hang out with you. That is a more nice way, because that shows that you're thinking. You're not thinking with your dick, you're thinking with your mind. Like, okay, this person is a person who's thinking, maybe let's give it a shot. Then you understand. And dating doesn't mean it's a perfect wed, is you're getting married to the person. There's a relationship stage where you are exclusively for that person. Relationships, when you get it, that's your exclusivity to the person based on what you guys talk. And then if things all pan out, and then you are like super comfortable with the person, that you can be in your actual character without faking a couple of things. That's you. Like, that's what boys do or girls do in the earlier stage of relationship. They trying to project themselves as something they are not, a little, for a little while. Like, for example, if a guy who doesn't wake up early and then doesn't brush his teeth, or doesn't take a shower, or doesn't shower in like 4 days, for the girl, the guy is waking up, eating a sandwich in the morning, taking protein shake, he's running, and then he's video calling her, and he's like, baby, oh my god, it was a really good workout. I was so tired. Oh, what have you been up to? She's on a treadmill. So later on, cut to like 3 to 6 months of dating. You see both of them eating a pack of chips, watching Netflix. Simple. It's that phase. So it is. I always say this. Is so cute seeing most of my other friends get into relationships, and then they talk to me. Oh my god, Ashwin, he's such a great guy. Oh my god. I said, relax, relax. Because I tell my friend, I kind of consoled you for more than 7 times, where you messed up with 7 different people in 7 different seasons. This is the eighth guy you're talking to. So I will say, take it slow, but you cannot change people. It's based on their experiences. So that's what it is. It's very funny.
Right, right, right.
I'm actually trying to make videos about it as well. So
Cool, 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 cool. And I mean, that's I think a good note to sort of end off on,
yeah.
because we'll go into that
Hmm.
in the next conversation
Yes.
that we
Yes.
have.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, bro, thank you so much for like being vulnerable and sharing everything that you did about your experiences. Because as much as people have had all of these experiences, sometimes it can be really hard to relate.
Hmm.
And you mentioned this earlier too, like
Hmm.
we all seek that sense of being able to relate to one another.
Hmm.
So I'm sure somebody might have done something similar to you have, to where now they've heard you talk about it and they're like, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for sharing everything that you did, bro. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Um, but yeah, we're going to go into the word association game that I
Sure.
mentioned before we started recording.
Hmm.
And it's called Bish, Bash, Bosh,
Hmm.
where I basically give the guests 5 different words.
Hmm.
and they have to respond to each word in either three words, three other words, or three phrases.
Okay.
Usually, I give guests five. All I give all guests the same five words.
Mm-hmm.
So just to sort of see how they respond to the same
Mm-hmm.
word
Mm-hmm.
differently or similarly. But now, as we were talking, I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll save that for the next time that we record,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe spice things up a little with
Mm-hmm.
this segment of Bish Bash Bosh.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll just give you different words based off of our conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, in that sense, let's get it started. If you're ready to go.
Yeah, yeah, really.
All right. The first word for this segment of Bish Bash Bosh is vulnerability. What are the three things that sort of come to you when I say the word vulnerability?
Empathy, being open, and honesty.
Hmm, beautiful. What are the three things that sort of come to your mind with dating?
Experiment, evaluate, and love.
Hmm. My third word was going to be love. So, what are the three other things that sort of call out to you when I say the word love?
Uh, Actions, uh, validation, and commitment.
Hmm. The fourth word is marriage. What are the three things that come to your mind when I say the word marriage? Excuse me, marriage.
Marriage. Expensive bills, and then a honeymoon trip to Maldives, and the constant pressure to make a baby.
Fascinating. I love all those answers. And for the last segment of Bish Bash or the last word, excuse me, of Bish Bash Bosh, what are the three things that come to your mind when I say the word expression?
Expression is your voice, your actions, and the message.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for playing on this segment of Bish Bash Bosh, a very much impromptu version of this segment, I
Mhm,
suppose, with five different words.
mhm,
But we're going to transition into the last two questions that I usually ask every guest
mhm.
before we leave. The first one being, how do you relate to people?
Mm, it's a very good question. Do you mind if I expand a little? There's not no much, not
Oh,
too
go
much,
for
but
it.
yeah. So
Go for it, by all means.
people usually confuse relatability to likability in many cases. Uh, you like many things, but you don't necessarily have to relate to it. And I think, based on my experience and experiments which I've seen, most famous people and celebrities in this planet are relatable. Like like if you see an underdog story, you like to watch it because you relate to the struggle. That okay, maybe people relate to things which they could be or could have been. That's two things. And I think the other five things which I believe are like everyone will relate to it, and that's exactly how I uh, frame my content or everything on my Instagram or my acting and stuff. One thing is honesty. Okay, honesty, see, I'm not telling you I never lie. Okay, but honesty at the core, as in, you know what you want and you tell the other person what you exactly mean by the things you say. For example, if you say, hey, I want to be with you, that exactly means you want to be with you. If you think that there's a certain thing which is not working in a relationship, or if two people are dating and then you think it might not work because you guys are not physically attracted, you make it clear saying that, hey, I don't think we will work out in the long term because I don't think this will work out. It's a nice subtle way of telling. You cannot say that I don't like you because I don't get physically attracted, because most people don't take it that way. Next thing is vulnerability. People are people are teachers of emotion. And then vulnerability, as in, you don't have to feel like really vulnerable every single time. But you know, like, people try to get their life, I mean, they kind of lead their life without getting hurt. And then then they just be like, really, don't touch me, and just like they kind of pretend like touch me. No, it's like, get hurt, get yourself broken, and that will make a new you. So I'll tell you is like, uh, an empty wallet, a broken heart, and a hungry stomach teach you a lot of things in life, which even no one, I mean, not even your parents can teach you. And the next thing is empathy. People relate to that as well, where it's like you don't have to do much in empathy. Like, the only thing you have to do is listen. Just listen. I do it every time. Like, my friends, when they go to a breakup, I'm the first go to. They just come to my house or I go to their place. I just don't talk. I just listen. Everyone knows what to do in a breakup. They say, usually what's the first suggestion you get? You have to move on. Bitch, I know, I have to move on, but I don't want to hear that. They just want themselves to be heard, like about the other person. There's no character judgment. There is nothing that you're telling. Just listen and just say, I'll be with you. Just, I'll be with you. I'll be with you. That will actually provide a lot more strength. So people relate to that. And pleasure is, we all love to love. And so pleasure is one of the most basic forms of connection. So if you think back when you were a child, what was the first thing your dad bought you? Like, as you see, these are all my toys, which I've had them for like 27 years now. And that's one thing. And then we do this as adults as well, like uh, connecting on what shows we like, or sharing things. Like, if you share like a connected uh, it's like when you share something with a person, that's a pleasure. Like, it is pleasureful. And then last thing you relate is pain. Pain is why is how men in bars kind of relate. It's like, if a guy is actually drinking alcohol, and then the guy, why, what happened, bro? And the other guy be like, bro, I had a breakup. Come on, let's dance. That's what it is. Pain relates people like anything. So I think these are the main things which I focus even on my videos, like either relatability, and then I give it in the humorous way. Humor is that villain in Hollywood who looks like a bomb, like beautiful, and then he just gives you food, and then you eat anything. Whenever certain people give you information in a humorous way, you take it, even though that's poison. So I'm just using it as an counterintuitive weapon to. So basically, to just summarize, is honesty, vulnerability, empathy, pain, and pleasure is the five things which I relate to people, and that's, I think most people also do that the same way.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's a great answer. And something that, is really true. Like, we all relate through those things. And I appreciate you mentioning all of those things.
Mhm,
Um, the last question, which is not really a question, but more so
mhm,
of a request.
mhm,
If you could leave all the listeners and watchers with a positive thought or a positive quote or something you'd want them to take away
mhm,
after they've listened to this episode today, what would that be?
mhm. So that's a really good thing, and I would say just be aware of certain things. Like, every action has its price and pleasure. So before before actually doing certain things, imagine yourself in two different situations. If things are really happy, and if things are going bad or going south. And then the next thing would be, for people who want to try and then kind of scared and stuff, always close your eyes and then take a deep breath and ask yourself, if there are no limits, no boundaries, what would you be doing? And that gives you an actually honest answer about it. And the other thing is, confidence without clarity can be a disaster. So be confident in your approach, as to how you're approaching people, or how you're approaching life. This actually applies to even life. But have clarity. Like, you don't have to uh, you just have to make sure that you know the depth sometimes, or actually swimming doesn't need. If there's a lake, if you're actually going to take a dive in it, you have to know two things. Either you have to know the depth of it, saying that I won't sink, or you have to know swimming. Make sure that is there, and then have enough faith in yourselves. And this thing which I learned in the hard way is, don't look at friends, don't look at family or anyone else to validate yourself, because you're more than worthy. God has given you this amazing body, this amazing brain. This device itself is an amazing thing. Like, the tool. Like, think of it as you are in a shell, in an Iron Man suit. Like, you are Tony Stark inside. So don't look for family. Like if you're trying to do something like in a different way, like what other people expect of you, just do it. Also make sure that you're also having a sustainable future while doing that. And then don't ask them for opinions. Then don't ask them for, hey, what do you think? And then they will like, oh, we don't like you doing this and stuff. Don't take it to your heart. Don't take it. That's exactly one reason why I don't ask people. I only say, this is my content, this is what I make, I post it. People who like it will watch it, people who won't will leave. So I don't run away, I don't run for likes, I don't run to do things. I definitely like growth, but this is what I think. And like I said, if you want to gauge your spiritual progress, gauge your behavior in situations, like how you react to similar situations, because that is a definition of fun in life, is like deliberately experiencing similar things in a different way. That's exactly what fun is in my definition. And the last thought is all of us, me, Prateek, or anyone else, are waiting for a train. Some trains come fast, some trains come late, but make sure you are in the train station when the train eventually arrives. So I would rather, and like I said, I would rather get rejected than miss an opportunity. You will definitely get on the train, and don't be in this constant cycle of comparing yourself. And then your life will be very happy, and you'll know your worth. And it's all chill, man. It's very easy to say that.
Yeah, beautiful. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, bro, for sharing everything that you did once again. I really appreciate it. And I hope we can have just as a beautiful conversation again the next time that we do about everything else.
For sure.
And yeah, before we go, if you could let everybody know where they can find you, what they should be on the lookout for, anything, feel free to share.
Yeah, so I think I kind of, it's a flex. So if people actually have to find me and they're lazy, you can just type my name Ashwin Kesiraju on Google, and Google will tell you everything which I have done. And my main channel is the Curry Boy, and then it's not BOY, it's BUOY. And there you can find my content and stuff which I do, and definitely you won't be disappointed. And there are more things which I'm actually planned for, and currently I'm taking a little bit of a break. There are other things in life I'm actually have to work on because they're actually burning. But I have a lot of ideas to actually share and then change how people react and do stuff. And me and Prateek will also collaborate in one other thing soon, and it is going to be an amazing experience. So you'll be seeing me here for a while and other places. So follow the Curry Boy, and also follow Prateek's Perspective Platoon. And to be honest, I've known Prateek for a long time. Like we kind of met at UCO and we have known each other. And he has really a lineup of really great people and amazing friends. And a few of his guests were my friends, and you'll also like it to see a different take on how people react to different things. And based on that, you can have a really healthy life and future. So
cool. Thank you, bro. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much once again. And yeah, for those of you listening and watching, thank you so much for just being a part of all of this. We'll see you guys next time.